Breaking news. At 2:19 a.m. UTC this morning, an automated alert propagated simultaneously through the European Space Network, NASA's Deep Space Network, and the Atacama Large Millimeter Array in northern Chile. What triggered it was not a comet, not an asteroid, and not 3I Atlas. It was something else. Moments ago, a fast-moving object appeared on multiple instruments where nothing should have been. Its trajectory did not match any known catalog. Its velocity exceeded expectations, and its energy signature violated assumptions we have relied on for decades. Today, the impossible just happened. Within minutes, emergency calls were made between observatories on 3 continents. Data feeds were locked. Independent verification began. And a phrase that had not been spoken aloud since the earliest days of the 3I Atlas investigation quietly surfaced in internal communications. This changes everything we thought we knew. If you want to stay ahead of the most important cosmic discoveries unfolding right now, take a moment to like this update and subscribe. What you are about to hear is not speculation. It is a developing scientific mystery, one that may redefine our understanding of what is moving through our solar system. And it begins not with 3I Atlas, but with something approaching behind it. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena was among the first to receive the anomaly packet. Within seconds, it was mirrored at ESA's Space Operations Center in Darmstadt, Germany. Parallel confirmations came from the Atacama Array in Chile and the Square Kilometre Array Pathfinder stations in South Africa and Western Australia. By the time Harvard, Smithsonian, and Caltech analysts were looped in, the object had already crossed a critical observational threshold. This was not a single instrument glitch. The James Webb Space Telescope, operating in infrared bands between 2.8 and 20 microns, detected a faint but structured heat signature at a distance of 7.4 astronomical units, well beyond Jupiter's orbit. Hubble, scanning in visible and ultraviolet, confirmed a moving point source with an unusual spectral slope. The Atacama Array recorded non-thermal emissions where none should exist. Within 40 minutes, the object was designated internally as a priority unknown, not yet named, not yet public. And, most concerning of all, it was following a corridor through space eerily similar to the path 3I Atlas took months earlier. 48 hours before today's alert, nothing appeared unusual. Archived data from wide-field surveys showed only background noise. The region of space in question had been scanned repeatedly down to limiting magnitudes that should have revealed even meter-scale debris. There was no sign of incoming mass, no gravitational perturbations, no reflected sunlight. Then, 11 hours before detection, subtle anomalies began to appear. A deviation in background infrared noise, a fractional nanotesla fluctuation in heliospheric magnetic field readings near Saturn's orbit. Individually, these signals meant nothing. Together, they formed a pattern that only became clear in hindsight. 6 hours later, JWST recorded a brief thermal spike equivalent to a blackbody temperature of approximately 410 Kelvin, lasting less than 90 seconds. Too short for a cometary outburst, too localized for solar interference. 3 hours after that, a deep space antenna in Madrid picked up a narrowband radio pulse at 4.7 gigahertz. It repeated once, then vanished. At the time, analysts dismissed it as interference. They would not make that mistake again. At 2:19 a.m. UTC, the object resolved fully across multiple platforms. It was moving at 87 kilometers per second relative to the Sun, faster than 3I Atlas at comparable distance. Its trajectory was hyperbolic, but not randomly so. When projected backward, it did not originate from the galactic disk in the expected manner of interstellar debris. Instead, its inbound vector appeared adjusted. Initial size estimates varied wildly. Optical cross-sections suggested a compact body no larger than 120 meters. Infrared emissions, however, implied an effective radiating surface nearly 10 times larger. Spectroscopy revealed no water, no carbon dioxide, no typical cometary volatiles. Even more puzzling was its shape. As the object rotated, its light curve did not oscillate smoothly. Instead, it exhibited stepped plateaus, flat intervals followed by sudden drops. This implied facets, geometry, angles too precise to be explained by natural tumbling. No known natural process could produce such symmetry. Within 2 hours, gravitational modeling teams at Caltech and ESA ran preliminary simulations. The object's acceleration profile did not match pure solar gravity. At 6.9 AU, it exhibited a non-gravitational acceleration of approximately 4.2 times 10 to the negative 6th meters per second squared. For comparison, that's nearly an order of magnitude higher than what we observed from 3I Atlas at a similar distance. And there was no visible outgassing. As the data poured in, a quiet realization spread across control rooms across the world. This object was not behaving like a comet, it was not behaving like an asteroid, and it was not behaving like 3I Atlas. It was behaving as if it had intent. At Harvard, Dr. Alina Moravec led an emergency spectroscopy review. Her team compared the object's spectral bands, particularly in the near-infrared, to known databases of minerals, ices, and artificial alloys. The match rate was effectively zero.
At Caltech, Dr. Aaron Feld ran rapid N-body simulations to test whether unseen mass distributions could explain the acceleration. They could not. Every model required either continuous thrust or physics we do not currently understand. At ESA, internal memos began circulating with an unsettling phrase, secondary interstellar object. Because as trajectories were overlaid, another detail emerged. This object was not alone. When its path was extrapolated forward, it appeared to be converging, not with Earth, but with the projected outbound path of 3I Atlas itself. Something worse than 3I Atlas was approaching the same stage from behind. 24 hours after the initial detection, the situation escalated. The object's brightness increased, not gradually, but in discrete steps. Each increase was accompanied by a corresponding change in velocity, as if mass redistribution were occurring internally. Temperature readings dropped from 410 Kelvin to 190 Kelvin in under 3 hours, defying radiative cooling models. Then came the pulses. At 14:06 UTC, 3 identical radio bursts were recorded across observatories in Spain, Japan, and Argentina. Each pulse lasted exactly 1.618 seconds. Each was separated by 89 seconds. The ratio did not go unnoticed. Spectral analysis showed the signal was extremely narrow band, with a drift rate inconsistent with Doppler effects alone. Embedded within the pulses were substructures, harmonics spaced at prime number intervals. This was no longer random. It was responding. NASA convened a closed-door virtual session involving representatives from ESA, JAXA, and multiple academic institutions. 2 primary hypotheses were placed on the table. The first was conservative, a natural explanation. Perhaps this was an exotic interstellar fragment, an object with unusual composition experiencing asymmetric thermal forces. Perhaps unknown surface chemistry or fractal geometry could explain the acceleration. Perhaps the pulses were coincidental plasma interactions amplified by heliospheric conditions. The second hypothesis was far more troubling, that the object was technological. Not necessarily a spacecraft in the human sense, but something engineered, something capable of controlled mass loss, directional acceleration, and emission of structured signals. Internal debate grew intense. Some scientists argued that invoking technology was premature, even dangerous. Others countered that refusing to consider it would be unscientific given the data. Then, 11 hours later, the object did something no model predicted. It changed course. The adjustment was small, less than 0.03 degrees, but unmistakable. The maneuver required an impulse equivalent to several gigajoules of energy. There was no explosion, no exhaust plume, just a silent correction. At the same moment, one of the radio pulses ceased mid-transmission, as if interrupted. Control rooms fell silent. In Darmstadt, an engineer reportedly whispered, "It knows we're watching." Whether that was fear or intuition remains unclear. Global reaction followed quickly, though quietly. Public statements from NASA and ESA described the object as under investigation and emphasized that there was no immediate risk to Earth. But behind the scenes, protocols shifted. Deep space assets were retasked, encryption levels were raised, data access was restricted. Subtle effects began to ripple outward. 2 low Earth orbit satellites experienced brief orientation errors coinciding with pulse events. High-frequency radio operators reported unexplained static bursts. Magnetometers recorded fluctuations of up to 12 nanotesla, small but synchronized. Even biological systems appeared affected. Ornithologists in Eastern Europe noted unusual migratory deviations. Not dramatic, just enough to be noticed. The sky, it seems, was whispering. In the quiet moments between updates, reflection crept in. For centuries, humanity has scanned the heavens expecting randomness, rocks, ice, debris shaped by blind forces. But what if the universe is not only shaped by chaos? What if we are witnessing coordination? Perhaps this is not an invasion. Perhaps it is not a threat. Maybe it is a probe, or a response, or something we lack the language to describe. As the object continues inward, now at 6.2 AU and accelerating, one final observation has left scientists unsettled. Its trajectory, when extended forward, does not intersect Earth. Instead, it aligns with a point in space where 3I Atlas last exhibited anomalous behavior before its mass loss event, as if something is arriving to inspect what remains, or to finish what was started. The next update window opens in less than 36 hours. Whatever this object is, it is not passing through silently, and the story is far from over. Subscribe to follow the next update, because the question is no longer whether we are alone, but what happens when something worse than 3I Atlas finally arrives.